Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating explainer focused on a short but incredibly powerful essay titled, Others Don't Believe, I Believe. This text comes straight from Xuefeng, the founder of Life Shanyuan. We're going to go on a pretty wild ride here, starting with a deeply personal, mysterious dream, and then telescoping way out into a profound psychological and metaphysical argument about why belief is absolutely essential. So let's just jump right in. Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. Here's how we'll break it down. First, a prophetic dream. Second, the mechanics of space-time. Third, the power of belief. Fourth, what should we believe? Fifth, the pitfalls of doubt. And finally, models of true belief. Section 1. A prophetic dream. A mysterious encounter in Tianjin. So, the essay hooks us right out of the gate. A visitor comes to Xuefeng's office with some deep questions about space and time, all sparked by this totally jarring personal experience. Here's what happened. The visitor had a dream where his grandfather fell in the bathroom, couldn't stand up, and literally told him, I have to go, live your days well, I'll be waiting. Then, the very next day, reality hits hard. He gets a phone call from his father confirming that his grandfather had actually passed away. But here's the absolute kicker, the core mystery. The grandfather had fainted and passed away in the bathroom. The exact details of the death matched the dream with chilling, perfect precision. No way that's just a coincidence, right? Moving on to Section 2, the mechanics of space-time, interpreting the supernatural. Now, what's really interesting about how Xuefeng approaches this is that he doesn't just write it off as magic or spooky ghost stuff. Instead, he grounds this seemingly supernatural event into a specific logical framework, using the concepts of telepathy and other life spaces. According to the Life Shanyuan philosophy, the grandfather didn't just vanish into thin air. He transitioned from the human world into another life space. And because the grandfather was so deeply worried about his grandson, he used a form of telepathy to transmit a final heartfelt message right before making that transition. Xuefeng actually tells the visitor that there's nothing inherently mysterious about this. It simply means the grandfather has an unusually high spiritual awareness and managed to intercept this signal. It's kind of like tuning into a specific radio frequency. Which brings us to Section 3, the power of belief, rooted like a tree or floating like duckweed. After unpacking the mechanics of this dream, Xuefeng turns to the visitor and asks, point blank, do you believe the soul is immortal? Do you believe in these other life spaces? And the visitor gives this powerful reply. Others don't believe, I believe. This sets up a stark contrast in Xuefeng's worldview. He describes believers using incredibly grounded positive imagery. They're blessed, rooted like a strong tree, humble, and they have this bright, clear future. They just know how to navigate life. But non-believers, he flips that imagery completely on its head. They are described as sorrowful, drifting aimlessly like floating duckweed. They're arrogant, facing a pitch-black future, and wandering around blindly like headless flies. It is a very black and white view on the absolute consequences of holding faith versus lacking it. That leads us directly to Section 4, what should we believe? The 4 pillars of faith. So, if we need to believe, what exactly should we be believing in? Xuefeng lays out 4 prescribed targets of belief. First step, facts. He means exactly what you see, hear, and experience yourself, just like the visitor's undeniable dream. You have to trust your own reality. Second, the words of sages. Xuefeng explicitly lists Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Lao Tzu, and other spiritual masters. It's this fascinating syncretic blend of major world religions all under one umbrella. Third, and this one is highly specific to Life Shanyuan metaphysics, he urges belief in negative universe information sensed by spiritual awareness. Think of this as trusting that unseen spiritual intuition we just talked about. And finally, the 4th pillar is simply God. So you've got this really unique blend of observable facts, traditional religious wisdom, and his own specific metaphysical concepts. All right, Section 5, the pitfalls of doubt, how belief crumbles. Now, what happens when we lose that faith? Xuefeng outlines a real taxonomy of doubt here, categorizing 4 distinct types of doubters. First, you have the total doubter. This person questions absolutely everything, which ultimately results in total paralysis in their life. They just can't move forward. Then there's the easily swayed. These folks start out believing, but they get confused by outward phenomena or other people's opinions, and they just give up halfway. Third is the hesitant doubter. They only half believe, keeping one foot out the door. Xuefeng says that when metaphorical storms or demons come, these people are simply swallowed up because they don't have a firm footing. And finally, the opportunist. This person believes only when it's profitable for them. They change their faith based on personal gain, and because of that, their heart remains totally empty. The big takeaway here, according to the text, all of these paths of doubt ultimately lead to severe, unavoidable downfalls.
Next up, Section 6. Models of True Belief, Standing Firm in Faith.
To show us what getting it right looks like, Xuefeng points to some universally recognized archetypes. These are the ultimate goals for the focused believer. He mentions Job from the Bible, who endured immense, unimaginable suffering without ever losing his faith. He points to the Apostle Paul, the Bodhisattvas in Buddhism, and devout believers in Islam. Actually, earlier in the text, he brings up a really great example, the story of the Apostle Peter walking on water. Xuefeng notes that Peter could literally walk on the waves purely because of his belief. But the exact second he let fear and doubt creep in, he started to drown. By using these incredibly famous figures, Xuefeng illustrates that this kind of unshakable faith isn't isolated to just one tradition. It's positioned as a universal law of spiritual success. And that brings us to the absolutely crucial point of the whole essay. Without belief, one cannot stand. This is the ultimate thesis statement we're looking at. Xuefeng turns back to his visitor and essentially says, look, your grandfather's dream wasn't just some spooky ghost story. It was a literal revelation. To doubt it or to try and brush it off as a trick of the mind would be a betrayal of the grandfather's dying wish and turning your back on a direct message from the universe. In this framework, belief isn't just a nice to have, it is the absolute foundation upon which everything else in life has to be built. To close out the essay, Xuefeng totally breaks the fourth wall and poses this exact direct question to the reader. Friend, do you also believe? We've traced this incredible journey today, starting from a haunting, deeply personal dream in Tianjin, all the way to a grand universal theology of unshakable faith. It really forces us to examine our own foundations, doesn't it? Are we rooted securely like a tree, or are we just drifting around like duckweed? Take a second to think about what actually anchors your own worldview. It's a lot to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and as always, keep learning.